Good evening. We're back with Deep Images. We're continuing our series on zombies. And we're going to cover a couple of classics this evening. We're going to start out, well, first of all, let me introduce Rhiannon Clark. If you don't remember her, she's my co-host tonight. And um, we are basically covering basically the undead zombies, not the contagion zombies so much. So maybe we'll do that another time. So we've already had quite a few nice sessions. So tonight we want to do a couple of classics. So I'm gonna let her go first with hers that she's very knowledgeable about and pretty excited to hear it.
Well, I'm really excited that I was asked to come on by Henry. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I
Or
really am a fan of your show, so thank you.
Joe is a fan of you.
No, thank you. And so I jumped lively at the chance to do Reanimator, uh, a movie, a 1985 horror sci-fi movie, and it was written by Stuart Gordon and produced by Brian Usna. I think it's Brian Usna.
Hmm.
And I just actually found that there was actually a commentary on this by the actual the producers and by Jeffrey Combs, who is the star of the show. Jeffrey Combs,
Hmm.
amazing. A lot of Star Trek people would know him as Wayoon.
He's played four roles in Star Trek.
Yeah, go for it. You say
Three series,
who's the
yeah. But way in was the big one.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, Jeffrey Combs, he's amazing, and I've loved him in anything that I've ever seen him in, and I saw him in Castle Freak as well. That's another film that I've really enjoyed or whatever. Um, but yeah, this is Reanimator is a story about basically about a psychopath, a sort of like a psycho who is obsessed with bringing the dead back to life. It's sort of like a Frankenstein story, basically, and set in Switzerland first. He goes Jeffrey Combs' character, he Herbert West, and it's based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. Herbert West, I think it's called
Herbert West
Herbert West
Reanimator, yeah.
Reanimator. That's it. Yeah,
Herbert West, yeah,
exactly.
it's got his whole name in it.
The whole thing. Yeah, the full title. But and so we start off, we're in Switzerland, and he's just after making this serum, and it called the reagent. They call it the reagent, and it's this really cool, super cool lime green sort of sludge, like toxic sort of luminous yellow or luminous green paste that they he injects into people, and then they come alive. um, so, and he's driven mad by his own genius or whatever, but he gets kicked out of the college in Switzerland or whatever. They find him reanimating someone. They're like, "Wow, get out!" But he doesn't tell them, and he ends up going to Massachusetts. So then it goes into the it introduces all the cast. The theme music is basically the theme music for Psycho.
Hmm.
Basically, the
Remix, yeah.
it's kind of like a jaunty nod to the to Herbert to Bernard. Oh, what's it? Bernard
Bernard
Herrmann.
Herrmann,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Bernard Herrmann's Psycho. Yeah, that's it. And I mean, at first I was a little bit angry about it because it was like it's like a blatant rip off the soundtrack. That's what I like. I think that's just the sort of neuro spicy in me kind of going,
No, no,
that's
I had that reaction once I didn't realize it at first because even though I'd seen Psycho many times, it had been many years I'd seen it since when I first saw Reanimator, and I thought it was really cool music, and I thought it was a little familiar. And then I saw Psycho, and then I read that it was, attributed, and it was like a remix. I forgot who the music producer was on the movie, but he remixed Herman's, but didn't really remix it that much. He kind of extended
no, no,
it.
no. He did his own thing of it, and I actually
Yeah.
read an interview with him about it, and he was
Okay.
just saying that it was more of an homage. So
Sure.
Richard Band is the man
Oh
who made the
yeah.
music.
Okay. Oh, I forgot that. Richard Band. Yeah, he's some great musician.
Richard Band.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like I mean, I once I read the interview with him talking about it and just saying that, yeah, it was on purpose. I did it on purpose. The
Sure.
soundtrack sounds like Psycho on purpose. and I added synths and I did really weird stuff to it. And he said he just wanted to add a sense of humor with the music. And like I know that we're both musicians, so we appreciate what music does for the ambiance of a movie or whatever. It
Hmm.
can totally pull the audience in, you know. And I think that Richard Band's music does that in this.
Hmm.
I think it
Yep.
does do that,
He has some humorous
So
little passages
yeah,
that Hitchcock wouldn't probably have never used, at least on that movie. So it's kind of
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got his own vibe, and I think that the whole cast of Reanimator, I think that everybody had a great time making it. I felt like it was a low budget film that like it was more like a family based thing. Like I think I heard Stuart Gordon and Brian, the producers and directors and writers, talking about that the small cast was all they could afford, really. They could only really afford a small cast. But I could tell that they had such a great time making this movie
Hmm.
that the sense of humor and the fun that they had making the movie actually comes out through the screen.
There's a lot of energy.
And so, yeah, there's so much energy. Yep, absolutely. And yeah, Jeffrey Combs he's incredible in this movie as the psycho type character. But yeah, we after the credits roll at the start, we move into Massachusetts, and so Herbert West is basically going into uh, start his studies somewhere else, but he doesn't really tell people why he's left or whatever. He talks like a psychopath. He kind of makes excuses, or like there was nothing more I could learn there or whatever. I think he
He's a
said.
bit pompous.
Yeah, he's very pompous. He's very egotistical, and he's very aggressive, and he loves challenging people.
Yes.
He challenges in a really aggressive way, not in a sort of like let's grow here together kind of way. It's
Hmm.
more of a
He's like, you got to do this for me or with me.
yeah, yeah, you've got to do this, almost like in a weird sort of predatorial sort of hypnotic. You want to do this with me, merely.
Which is ironic considering the other subplot, but go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, so then they zoom into this character, Dan Kane, right? And he's like an all-American dude, and he's like, oh, he's trying to save a lady's life, and then in horror form, they like rip the lady's shirt open, full breasts again. We see the breast. It's like, it's comic nudity, like, do you know what I mean? Comical nudity is one of the themes in horror movies that I've noticed.
Hmm.
But anyway, so he tries to like clear, like shock her with the heart shockers, and then it's like, there's nothing we can do for her. So it's sort of like introduces the theme of death and is it inevitable,
Hmm.
and how it weighs upon the doctors, and how they feel like they have to let people go or whatever, and it's just the heaviness of death weighing upon the doctor's heart or whatever.
Hmm.
Um,
We
so
covered a
he just
movie with that theme on here.
yeah,
Have you seen The Fountain?
I've heard of the Fountain, but I
Yeah.
haven't actually
We
seen the
finally
Fountain.
covered it. I was a favorite of a few of us, and we covered it right before you joined the show. I was on the sci-fi thing, and I covered it, and we talked about Briggy's a big fan, but that main character played by Hugh Jackman can't accept. Well, he's immortal. He's immortal, but he doesn't tell anybody he's immortal. But in the present day, he's a doctor, and ironically, then his wife is dying. So then he starts
Oh
telling
wow.
his boss, "Death is a disease, and I'm going to cure it." It's the same
Mhm.
obsession.
Yeah. No, I mean, like death is a big thing for people to kind of come through, or to kind of it's a really funny movie for kind of uh getting people to get a handle on death or whatever. Like,
Hmm.
for example, my father died, but after watching Reanimator, I would prefer that he was dead and not have him like reanimated. I'm like,
Right.
I'm glad my father is dead and he's resting in peace or whatever. He's not reanimated
Because they
and
come back
in agony.
as, yeah, our topic, zombies.
Yeah, zombies, and I get the feeling that zombies are just angry. They don't want to be alive, so that's why they wreak havoc. They're like chaotic beings, zombies.
Hmm.
I just get this feeling. when they become reanimated, they're just like, "Why have you brought
Yeah,
me back?" That that's the feeling that I get from every zombie I've ever looked at. I'm like, I understand
especially true
because
in
you were
this
probably
movie. Yeah, definitely because
yeah.
they have that aggression. It's not cannibalistic like Romero's, but it is that aggression, that violence.
Mhm.
Even the
They're
first
definitely.
thing he re I'll let you get to that though.
Oh yeah.
When he's at Miskatonic University.
Oh yeah. So yeah, so we see Dan, and then Dan is going out with this Dean Halsey. He's the dean of the Massachusetts Medical Study Facility hospital. What is it?
It's a division of Miskatonic. Miskatonic University is in all of Lovecraft's Cthulhu Mythos stories because he does did a shared universe. So Miskatonic University these days is kind of like a joke among a lot of horror fans. Like they'll put it as their Facebook status, like studied at Miskatonic University, because it kind of evokes those stories. So it was the so you know, uh, Gordon is a huge fan, and Usner are huge fans of Lovecraft. They've done several Lovecraftian movies, and of course, so this one was the first one they did. So that's why they said it. I don't remember if the original story is said in Michigan. It probably is, but it's such a short story, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah, but I love the buildings that they've used or whatever for this movie. Just very cinematic. Um, but yeah, so Dan is going out with the dean's daughter, and they are fiance. They're going to be husband and wife, and they've moved into a house together, and they have a spare room in the basement. And lo and behold, when they're having a beautiful sort of sexy horror movie sort of sexy time together, you I don't know, in every horror movie there's like sexy time, there's like in the bedroom with the posters on the wall, and there's just some kind of energy, and there's this, yeah, just chemistry between the fiance to be uh Dean and Dan and Megan. And then uh and then call it Bernard. I'm having freeze. My brain is freezing.
Do you can you talk for a second about Megan, about the actress, since she's the most famous
Barbara
actress?
Crampton.
Yeah.
Yeah, Barbara Crampton. She's a very beautiful lady. She's just very natural in it, I think. I believe her. She's very sweet and innocent. So like she's kind of innocence personified in a woman.
Hmm.
And it's like she's like a light surrounded by such horror.
Hmm.
And I feel that I really want Dan Kane to like protect her in this movie. I
Hmm.
want her to protect her, but but what we see is um oh,
That is kind of
yeah,
his
sorry,
obsession. Go ahead.
pardon, but yeah, Herbert West comes, knocks on the door, and he wants to get rent a room downstairs or whatever, because he's looking for a place to do his experiments in, to be honest. And
Hmm.
then so he goes downstairs, and he's like, this is perfect. And but Barbara Crampton's character, Megan Halsey, absolutely uses women's intuition and is like, this guy's a bit creepy. I don't like, ask some questions and stuff, and is like, I mean, why did you leave Switzerland and stuff, and like trying to get a rational sort of answer out of this guy, but like he's not a rational dude, and he kind of shuts her down and starts leaning on Dan's character because he's like a predator, can sort of like weasel his way in and see a sort of like a chink in his armor that he's not fully hasn't fully grown into a man that's committed to his partner who's able to actually protect her from
Hmm.
such characters as him. So
Right.
he could tell. So he just got him on his side.
Right.
Like, I mean, I felt like he was a bit weak, the Dan
Yeah,
character,
Dan is
like, because he would,
susceptible to manipulation by Herbert.
yeah, yeah, he is. But you see, the thing is, that has to be for the thrust of the story, I guess.
Oh yeah.
It has to be. no matter how horrible the feeling of it is, we it has to be.
Hmm.
But so so then Herbert West moves in, even against Megan Halsey's better intuition. And one night, when the couple come home because they were actually at a dinner with all the dean and with also Dr. Hill, all of the prominent figures in the Massachusetts uh, hospital or whatever, where they're
Miskatonic.
studying
Yeah.
Miskatonic study school. Um, they're all at the dinner table, just aren't we great? Aren't we great? Don't we do great work? Type thing, and just kind of pompously showing off with each other, and also Dr. Hill sort of makes really weird moves. He's got a great face. The guy who plays Dr. Hill,
Hmm.
he's got a great face.
Character actor. I forget. I always
Carl
forget his
Hill,
name. What's his name?
David Gale, David
Yeah.
Gale,
Yeah.
amazing face, but he's another predator. He's another psycho.
Oh yeah.
And so he kind of comes on to Megan, and you can see at the start is like, cheers to Megan, whose beauty enraptures us all. Kind of, but it's like really creepy, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
okay. And the dean is like, oh, Dan and Megan are like, we're gonna go home and study, wink, wink. And Dean is like, okay, you go and study. I'll keep this predator away from you. And sort of like, while he's still able to function
Hmm.
as an actual human being. But yeah, so they go home and they hear a weird sound in their apartment, and they find Herbert West like reanimating a cat. They hear the sound. They look for the cat.
Yeah, it's her
And
cat.
no, they look for a cat, and then they find her cat dead. Actually, first they find the cat dead in the fridge,
Mm.
and like she's like, that should be it. Like that should be the moment, where like, okay, Herbert West, get out of our house. You're after literally killing the cat. Like, why is it in your fridge? That's creepy.
Though
You know what I
I
mean?
don't think Dan thought he killed the cat at first because he
No,
wants to
he
believe
didn't.
Herbert's the, good guy.
I know, look, bros before hoes and all that. But no, I'm joking.
That's
Is that the
hilarious.
moment?
Bros before.
That's the I don't know, but like it's a ridiculous example of that, but like
Well, no,
it's
it
the
is
sort
because
of
Herbert has almost like this. I don't want to say it's homoerotic, but he has
it is.
in a way, yes, he has this like, this is my friend. I'm going to control him. I'm going to dictate to him, and you're not talking to the girlfriend. Like he's mine. You know,
Yeah. Oh
and
look,
as someone who had a best friend who was in the Herbert West role of that relationship for many years, yes, it's very toxic.
it exists. It's real. It's a real dynamic.
Mhm.
So yeah, that dynamic is present in the movie, and yeah, because he's like literally Herbert West is in Dan's ear, like, don't listen to her, she's crazy, like what I mean. And he's just like, okay, okay, Herbert West. But yeah, and then in the nighttime, he tries to reanimate the cat, and Herbert West brings Dan into his mad world, and like takes the dead cat out of the fridge, and like its back is broken, it's in bits basically, and then he reanimates the cat, and like, don't expect it to be doing the poker or something dancing, it's like got a broken back or whatever. um but like, yeah, it's just freaky, but the animation is incredible. Do you know who did the animation for that?
And
For him.
no real cats were harmed. We need to let everybody know that because that
Oh
seems,
yeah, no real cats,
yeah,
exactly.
it's not a real cat. Well, not from death on, it's not a real cat.
It's I don't know, but I have a really weird sort of fascination with special effects in horror movies, and
Of course.
when they're good, and when they bring you in, they bring you in. Do you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
Reanimator brings you in with its gore factor. Everything, every scene is carefully done and done with love. Like gore done with love is
Mm.
special. I don't know, for
Good,
me.
good, good point. I like that.
Yeah. Um, but yeah,
So to
I
the
think.
cat comes back, and then he the cat or he. It's a little different.
Mhm. Oh yeah, well the cat comes back and he is yeah, he's crazed. He's like, well, yeah, he's a little different. Well, he's like, just like, do you want me to do an impression of the cat? uh, I don't know. But yeah, like he's in bits, but he comes back and he's alive and he's obviously alive, but he jumps up and he starts like jumping on the back of Dan and then jumping on the back of Herbert West and then they smack him around the room and then like
Some
they
real cats are like that. Who are alive.
yeah.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, no, it's just it's comical. Do you know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
comedy in it.
it is. Yeah,
There's actually comedy in it.
especially
There's
when you know it's
slapstick
a
in it.
fake cat. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. And Jeffrey Combs goes for it. He really goes for it. Like he's really in it, and his face is really dark. Like even though he's doing something really funny, his face is making it look darker.
Yeah,
Like I don't know, it's a really weird mix
he
of
has a
dark. It's a really
sinister bent to him.
he does, but still funny at the same time. I don't know how he does it.
Yes.
I think he's a genius because I know he's actually a really nice person. I think he's a really
Yeah, I
good
met
guy
him
in
once.
real life,
Have you met him?
Jeffrey. No, I've never met him, but I just get the feeling that he's a
Yeah,
really
he's
cool
nice.
guy.
I met him once in 2015, 2013. He was actually the biggest, well, in my mind, the biggest guest at this particular convention, though they didn't really treat him that way because he wasn't trendy like Game of Thrones and all this other stuff they were covering or Doctor Who. So he kind of got ignored. But me and my ex-wife went over. And he was very quiet. It's almost like he's easy to be ignored because he's nothing like his characters. He's just like, yeah, man, thanks. Yeah, Star Trek was great. Yeah, cool. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
low key.
uh, I'd love to meet him. I swear,
Mm,
I'd have a laugh. I definitely would. I just definitely vibed with his enthusiasm and his sort of passion for his roles. He really dives in 2 feet in to every role he plays, and he did with Herbert West anyway. His the work is his everything.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I
That's
mean? He's got a scientific mind. Herbert West has a scientific mind, and so it's like, what else? I've done this now. What else can I do? That's his attitude. You know.
Yeah, he
I don't
doesn't.
know.
That's all. He doesn't care about human feelings about it. He just wants to keep pushing science to its limit.
I know, and I think that that's where a lot of religious people get extremely kind of like, let's just be really religious because these scientist people scare me because they're all like this guy. Well, they're not
There are
all like
real life
there
scientists
are.
like this, and I'm not
Yeah,
going to name the most famous one of my lifetime and your lifetime, but because this
yeah.
YouTube might demonet. Well, we're not monetized yet. Please subscribe so we can be monetized. Um, I'm not going to name him, but the most famous scientist of recent years in the world uh, is like that. He keeps doing stuff and doesn't care about anyone's like human. He doesn't care about humans, you know. So and he thinks his science is absolute. And of course, now most of his science has been debunked, but all these people are dead and injured. So, um, but yeah, Herbert is like, yeah, Herbert's like a proto. I'm not gonna say his name. Okay.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know exactly who you're talking about. But it's an archetype. Like basically, Jeffrey Combs's character Herbert West plays an archetype for a reason, and I believe that art has that power. It has that medicine to be that mirror in in the world to certain characters and certain archetypes, so that people reflect and think, "Am I like being like this Jeffrey Combs character?
Mm,
Am I a little bit like that professor?" You
mm,
know.
mm, mm.
And I think that's what good art does, and I think that this movie does do that if people were aware of it more, and I hope that people go out and watch this movie, you know what I mean? I really want people to watch Reanimator, because there are so many themes in this movie that are applicable, and we have seen it in
Hmm.
current in our current climate and things, and art like this needs to be seen. We
Hmm.
can't like just go on making art that is just sort of fabricated out of like sort of memes or an internet tropes, and
Right.
we need real characters, real archetypes, real stories that have real medicine for
Absolutely.
people to, you know what I mean, to help people through dark times. So if we're going into a dark time, we're armed with these stories so that we can move through these things and say no and pass bills that say no to certain types of scientific experiments going in certain ways that are would destroy humanity, for example, or like,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
would go too far towards hurting humanity. You know, we need to respect it.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, there's the character Dr. Hill, Dr. Carl Hill. So we see Dr. Carl Hill, and he's basically the leading brain surgeon in the hospital. And we see him, and everybody's looking around him, kind of him, studying his work. And he says that the brain can only survive outside of the skull for like 6 to 8 minutes or something like that.
Mm.
And Herbert West was kind of arguing with him about this and saying that he's derivative of someone else's work, and that he's closing the minds of the students around him, and that he snaps his pencil while he's doing his work, while he's doing brain surgery or whatever, just to kind of get under the skin of Dr. Carl Hill.
Hmm.
So there's this sort of rivalry between the two of them, and you can see that Dr. Carl Hill is definitely a psychopath because he's likening pulling back someone's skull to peeling an orange. So he's dehumanized the
Hmm.
person,
Hmm.
which is a skill that people use to kind of repress any sort of um, connection to the subject
Yeah, doctors
that they're
have to do
working.
that a lot to cope. And
Mhm,
yeah.
they do. Um, but it that scene where Dr. Carl Hill is working on that on the skull and pulling back the brain and stuff, and just shows the tension between the two of them, and that there's these two predators that have clocked each other, and that sees they're excited by each other, but also they're frightened and excited by each other. And I don't know, but like a certain type of person is drawn to that sort of kind of interaction and
Yes.
feeds off of that kind of interaction.
Right, even if it's in an enemy capacity.
Yeah, they get into it or whatever. I'm not into that kind of stuff. Just to
No.
let people know, I'm not really into that stuff
No, we don't
myself.
endorse
But
that
you know,
on this show. Um,
no, 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 no. Goodbye. Yeah.
I wanted to say, I think kind of where you're going with that part of the movie is my thoughts were that it's very much an extension of movies like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, well, also novels like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and of course Frankenstein, where the scientific establishment is dismissive of this person, and they're like earnest, those characters are a little bit nicer. Well, Frankenstein's a little bit nicer. Dr. Jekyll is a lot nicer than Herbert West, but in each case, science has become a dogma and the university is all about money, and grants and everything. And what's funny is that's gotten way worse since Robert Louis Stevenson wrote Dr. Jekyll, or even since those movies came out in the 30s and 40s, because everything's this industrial age, corporate age is what I mean. It's all about money. It's all about the grants and the prestige. And so you described everything that they're definitely archetypes, I think, and the difference is West is not Wes sees himself as, I guess he sees himself as doing great things, but he doesn't seem to pretend to be a hero per se, but maybe he is in his own mind. I don't know.
I just I don't know what he is in his own mind. He seems to just I think he thinks he's brilliant.
Oh yeah,
That's
he
what I
knows
think.
he's brilliant.
He knows he's brilliant. That's what I know he knows. You know what I mean? That's what he puts across that he knows.
Mm-hmm.
He's brilliant,
Mm-hmm.
and these people haven't got a clue what they're doing, and he knows that his invention of the reagent to bring to reanimate dead. First, he uses cats and dogs, and he reanimates animals, and then he thinks, okay, people next. You know, um, so so basically, Dan goes in and tells Dean Halsey and Carl, and tells the head, the dean of the school, what he did with the cat, and
Oh.
he's like suspends uh, Herbert West and
Now,
Dan.
now, when Dan tells him that, he's telling it to them as a positive thing for science, right?
Yeah, he is.
Even
That's
though
how
it's
he's
his
looking at
girlfriend's
it.
cat, Herbert's convinced him that the scientific breakthrough is worth it.
And Dean is like, no, this is crazy. You're crazy. You're
Right.
suspended. Get out. And so Dan is like, I have nothing to lose. Okay, Herbert West wants a body. I'll go get him a body. I have nothing to lose. So I'm gonna take Herbert West's call to adventure.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
the weirdest call to adventure, but it is a call to adventure. It's like,
He is.
never mind your girlfriend.
Well,
Come with me.
he's been alienated by authority, and
Yeah.
so he has this unlikely ally, and yeah, he is a little bit. I mean, he does care about his girlfriend, but he does get caught up in this to you know not to
The
her.
call to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Misadventures, maybe.
Yeah, the call to misadventures. Exactly. That's a very good way of putting it. So yeah, so they go to the morgue anyway, and they go and they find the freshest body, and they find a body that's had a heart attack, and then they're going into the writing down the details. Okay, 15 cc's. How much does that take? Like, when will it reanimate? And so there's this moment. So we the audience are being drawn into this experiment, and we're curious. Ooh, I'm curious.
Hmm.
How much reagent does it take to actually reanimate a body? And so it's 15, and then it's 25 cc's, and all this. So, and then we see some movement, and it's like, ah. Then the cadaver jumps up and is angry, and like starts trashing the place and freaking out. And the dean comes in, and then there's tussling or whatever. And then the cadaver, the zombie, because it's a zombie at this stage. So
Hmm.
we are recovering zombies. It was dead. The cadaver was dead. It was a
Hmm.
body, and now it's alive.
Hmm.
Just to clarify.
It's
And
undead.
so undead, undead. Yeah. Yes, indeed. And so he's going crazy, and he's like throttling the dean or whatever, and he bites off the dean's fingers, and he's like, the dean's probably insane already just from the trauma of that experience or whatever. But because he's been bitten, and also I think Herbert, no, it's not a bite thing. It's not a bite. It's you
No, it's
have to
not
use the
contagious.
reagent. It's not a contagion one. It's a you have to use the reagent. Sorry. So no, he's in bits anyway, and but the Herbert West takes an actual bone saw and like brings it through the chest of the cadaver to like get to the heart and kill the body. Okay, that's it. That experiment, he's done. You know what I mean? It's like the callousness of which, he doesn't care. It's like, okay, that it's getting out of hand. I'm gonna like kill the zombie. You're done.
Yep.
And now Dean Halsey is there. It's like, okay. And Dan is like freaking out because what? Oh my God, this is everything is becoming chaotic. I'm freaking out here. And Herbert is like, stick with it. Stay focused on the actual project at hand here, on the science. Let's do this. We have a fresh body here with Dean Halsey. He just got killed by the other zombie character.
And of
And
course, that's
so,
for loathsome. That's like almost a bridge too far for Dan. Almost.
yeah. It is because he actually lies down and he's like in the fetal position. Like, I'm actually freaking out. He actually goes into shock, as you would do. You would go into shock. But then it's like Herbert West is like, come on, let's focus. Let's get back in the game. And so they reanimate Dean Halsey, and he flips out, and uh, he can he's making moans and groans like a zombie because he is a zombie, and his daughter comes looking for him. Megan,
Hmm.
Barbara Crampton comes looking for her dad in the movie, and like literally freaks out because she's like, my dad, like, what have you done? What, my dad's gone mad. She's freaking out. She's no idea what's happening. But I could see that like the heart of the father was strong enough to actually sort of react to his daughter
I
coming
think he
in, and that
recognized her on some
he
level.
recognized her. Like,
Yeah.
that's the strength of the love that he had for his daughter, that he actually recognized her even though he was actually a zombie.
I liked him
So,
a lot better as a zombie. I thought he was an asshole.
oh yeah. Well, he was very controlling. He was very controlling
And
dad.
that's what's so beautiful about that. Like if you that's where you kind of like you sympathize with Dan a lot. You're like this guy's like expelling me and he's like, lecturing me and he has all this power over us and he's my girlfriend's daughter and now it's like look at
Yeah.
him. But I do think he's probably still morally offended at some level. But there's a level
Yeah.
where Herbert manipulates his probably already dislike for Halsey and the whole awkward situation. And
Yeah,
I
that's
love
true.
it.
That's true. Like, um, like the way people like codependency, the
Hmm.
the weird power games that people play, and when it gets awkward like that, if it's not addressed within human dynamics, like weird things can start happening. And I think Herbert West absolutely does um, take advantage of that dichotomy that you were saying there, like
Hmm.
about the controlling father over the lives of this newly wedded couple, or couple to be, wedded couple to be.
West hates the guy
Yeah,
so much, he's relishing this, so hell Halsey.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, they Dean Halsey didn't see his brilliance, didn't kind of support his brilliance, and like, you suspended Dan, my lover, and me.
I love her.
I'm affronted for both of us. I'm affronted for both of us. Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but
But
well,
everyone thinks he's just gone insane. Like the
yeah.
public or the people who see him at the hospital, they think he's just gone insane. So they straitjacket him.
Oh yeah. They straitjacket Dean Halsey, and then uh, Dr. Hill comes in, and Carl Hill, and sees it as an opportunity. I can see that you're now alone, he says to Megan, the character Megan. I can see that you're alone. And I want you
Mm-hmm.
to call upon me as a confidant,
Comfort
and
you.
and to comfort you in your dark times, to comfort you. Yeah. But yeah, sort of like in a creepy predatory manner. I can see that you're alone now. That's a really very creepy moment. And he uses that opportunity. Dr. Hill actually lobotomizes her dad in the movie. And we only find out then after the reason he lobotomizes Megan's dad is because he wants to steal Herbert West's idea of reanimation.
Yeah, Hill has
And
figured out that he's a zombie.
yes, he's
That what?
figured out that he's a zombie, and he wants to take Herbert West's ideas. And because he's just as much of a psychopath as Herbert West, he was like, "You will give me your idea." He tries to like use sort of hypnotic, sort of hypnotizing energy upon him. You will. And he kind of sits down Herbert West sits down, and it's kind of like, whoa, has Herbert West met his match? But he was just like, we're gonna have to take another like sort of like moment to kind of reassess. I'm putting myself in the mind of Herbert West. But he sits down and he reassesses while Dr. Carl Hill looks under the microscope and is like, yes, oh, I see. I see what you've done here. Oh, I have the idea. That's brilliant. I'm going to be so rich with your idea, or whatever. And in the meantime, Herbert West picks up a shovel and takes the opportunity to take the head off of uh, Dr. Carl Hill in a really grotesque manner. And so Dr. Carl Hill is just a head and a body. Um,
But he's
but
dead.
then,
He's dead
but he's dead. But he's
for now,
dead. And
right?
then the madness of it all, uh, Herbert West is like, I've done cats, I've done people, but I've never done whole parts before. I've never done just parts. So he decides to reanimate Dr. Hill's head and Dr. Carl Hill's head and his body. But then um, it the body and the head overpower him and they take the serums, and for a while it looks like Dr. Carl Hill has taken control of the situation, and he's ordered the body to steal the psychotic, his infatuated subject, Megan Halsey. So the body steals Megan and then throws her on the slab, and like she is like it's so innocent, and it's like she's like so defenseless.
So we're gonna resume. I go back into
Oh yeah,
Doctor Hill.
Dr. Hill. Basically, the body is like taking like bags of blood and putting them into like a tray for the head. So the head is kind of he's kind of like, oh yes, thank you, cadaver. My body is. It's really gore. It's hilarious the way they've done it. And I'm just imagining that there's a man's head, like his head is under the table and they put a hole out of the head, out of the
Hmm.
table or whatever.
Oh
The
yeah.
whole hole in the table trick
What did you
for the
think of how he's reanimated versus the others? Because he's still what self-aware. Even though he's a head, he's still sentient. He's not like the other undeads. I thought that was
well, I think it's
interesting.
probably because he's so brilliant that he's been able to, and he's so in control
Yeah, he
that
has that
that's why he's
willpower.
able to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It,
and
it,
he's so in control
hmm
that he takes his head and he like literally is able to control Dean Halsey as a sort of like puppet
Yeah, he's got
to
hypnotic
do his
powers.
bidding.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I wonder if they don't deal with this in the movie, and maybe they have on the commentaries, and I've missed it, but I'm sure they have. But I guess yeah, his he talks about his willpower, so I'm thinking what you said about that's what keeps his personality intact. But it's not his will is so powerful that not only that, but he can not only control his own body, even though it's separate from him, he can also hypnotize other people, some other people. So then
Yeah.
now he's become like a grand villain.
It doesn't say that. Never says that, but that's just my
No, I
impression
mean
because
that's all we've got to go on. So we're piecing it together. Pardon the pun.
yeah.
We're piecing it together.
Yeah. Love it. Love it.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
So thank you.
Um,
Dr. Hill is uh hypnotizing.
he's hypnotizing Dean Halsey into um just doing whatever he wants. Oh, into getting basically grabbing his own daughter to put him on the slab, basically to be sexually molested by him.
Hmm.
You know, and like his body is holding his head, and like I thought, okay, that he said, "How about a little head?" or something,
Hmm.
but he never says that, and apparently loads of people online think he says that,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's like
that's one
some
of
sort of
those things.
Mandela effect
Yeah,
or
that is kind
something.
of like the, yes, you're right. I'd have to see it myself because I have heard people quoting that, and I don't remember either way, even though I've seen the movie a bunch of times. I
Is
guess I've
there a
sort
director's cut? Another cut? Like, is there another cut? Because
of,
I also remember seeing bat wings on his head,
that's in the
like as if
second
his.
movie.
Is that the second movie? Okay, I was like, okay, no, that's the second
Bride of
movie.
Reanimator, he gets the bat wings. Spoilers
All right, okay.
for a second movie.
Oh, sorry.
And we're okay. We're spoiler heavy.
Yeah.
We go deep. We go deep.
Yeah, so Herbert West comes in and to challenge Dr. Hill after all this, like Dr. Hill is like, like licking Megan Halsey or whatever. It's like really gross or whatever. And she's like, oh, get away from me. And so Herbert West comes in to like cut this horrific scene. And he's saying, like, come on, you know, like look at you. Like, you think you're gonna go off and steal my reanimator sort of reanimation liquid or whatever, and who's going to believe you? You should like get a job as a talking head in a sideshow or whatever. You
Yeah.
know?
I,
Yeah,
I do think regardless of the dialogue, I do think the implication when the body puts the head down and Megan's strapped down is that he does try to attempt cunnilingus on her, but we're not
yeah.
privy to that graphically. Thank goodness.
Yes, indeed. But that's why I think people thought that.
Yeah,
How about a little head? I think that's why
right. They thought they heard it. Yeah,
they thought they heard it, but everyone was thinking it.
right.
Yeah.
Everyone's thinking.
So, but yeah, Dr. Carl then unleashes all the other bodies in the morgue to kind of like control him and to kill Dr. Herbert West or whatever.
Now, was
To
Herbert
Herbert
already
West. Yeah.
reanimating those bodies? Was that remind me of that plot point?
No, no, they were all there. He hadn't touched them, but
So they do not have
Dr.
the
Hill.
reagent. Is that correct?
No, he stole it all. It's all in a bag. They took the body. Dr. Carl Hill took all the reagent. His idea was that he was going to run away with the idea.
Oh, so he'd injected them already,
So he injected them.
and then
So
he
like that
raises
was the
them with his like mind power.
he does to try and attack Herbert West and to like to kill him. But they actually kill Megan, which is really sad.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
you
Good
know,
going, guy.
and I mean, yeah, that's tough or whatever. Um,
So Dan has this
but yeah,
quandary again. It's worse now,
yeah.
but I'll let you tell us
Can
about
you
it.
can you say that bit because I'm blanking on that bit.
Well, because of course, Herbert thinks they should reanimate her or whatever. Um,
Oh yeah.
Herbert, uh, they kind of imply that Herbert is killed in the middle of the zombie thing, but we know he isn't killed because he comes back in three more sequels. They leave it a little, they don't show you like, the dead body. But when I first saw it, I assumed he was dead. Not that he
Oh yeah.
couldn't come back, but he doesn't come back with a reagent. He just somehow escaped from the zombies, and they only kind of sort of
He ran away.
glide over it on the sequel. Yeah. But Dan gets
Yeah, I think they kept the mystery. That's what it was that they did. They kept it mysterious, didn't they?
just in case. And we
They
know
did,
we
but then
know
at the
Dan's
end, I see he does actually inject her in the end because that's the
yes.
last scene.
Yeah, tell us about the ending.
Is
So
that,
Dan is in this moral quandary. Should he use this reagent on her because she's dead now and he loves her?
Mhm. But he does use it on her, but we don't know what happens because it literally goes black.
And we hear her scream.
We hear her scream, so she's awake, but
We don't know if she's
that's all we hear.
yeah, she might be in a frenzy like the others earlier zombies. Yeah, I think
Probably
that's a
will be
brilliant. I
eventually.
like the way they did it too. He starts to inject the green fluid and then everything starts to gradually dim to black until the only thing on the screen
Yeah,
is the fluid and then you see it go to zero.
go
And
to the end of the syringe. Yeah, and then
yes, and
it's
the credits and that psycho theme, of course.
psycho theme. Yeah,
Have you
but
seen
yeah.
Reanimator, Nick?
No, I haven't. I'm going to probably have to now.
It's pretty wild.
Oh yeah,
It's a
So it
wild
keeps
ride.
it's
happening with these
exciting.
reviews. I start finding stuff I got to watch again or
Cool.
new.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
I
you have
know.
any
I feel
final
like we need to get
thoughts?
our own diaries. We should have diaries, I think, Henry, like of all the movies we haven't seen from the show that just go through the
Oh,
show with a
yeah.
fine-tooth comb.
Do you have any final thoughts on Reanimator before we move on?
Um, my final thoughts are that everyone should see this movie, because it's a hoot. It's actually really funny, even though the topics of death and science gone too far and all of these sorts of topics are very serious topics. But it's done with such humor that it's really palatable, and I think that that makes it more effective.
Hmm.
You know,
I concur.
so
All right, so we're going to wrap up this segment and we're going to be back with more zombies very, very soon. So, Rhiannon would like to remind you guys of something important that she wanted to impart to you, I believe.
I want to remind you all that you're very welcome to leave comments whenever you like and watch the content and like get inspired by what we're saying and what the movies that we're sharing with you. And if you like any of the movies that we've talked about, that literally go find them, search them out, watch these movies, you know. And we'd love you to like, subscribe, and share to your friends because we are independent and we're grassroots. We're on the grassroots floor and we need people to get out there doing the likes the shares and yeah, we're community based, so yeah, we need your support. Thank you.
Very well said. So thank you, Rhiannon, and thank you, Nick Mays, who's also joined us here, and he'll be back with us in the next one. So thank you very much. Have a great night.
And it's true that we cannot see that far behind. If we looked all the way in the past, we'd go blind. In the night, from the stars as they've all lived their lives, and the light that they gave as they burned and then died.